we got ourselves a bit of false advertising here. Because I need to maintain my chessable streak, so I'll do this for a little while. Lots of optimistic variations in these chess books. See, that box doesn't actually look perfect. Let me see. Yeah, it's okay. Maybe I'll round out this chapter and then switch to live chess like I promised. There's a little bit more in this chapter. Hello, Shy. I feel like I just saw you. Right. No alternative for me today. Just trying to go quickly for the first time. I'm going to be doing a little bit of chessable just because I realized I hadn't done it yet today. And then I'll switch to light chess. This looks like it's just illustrating things we've already looked at. Or not. I think this is just showing some silly thing that white can do. Alright, it's actually showing white has some compensation in this position. So probably this is all prefacing what we're going to actually do against this. So this is a lifetime repertoire from Anish Giri, but I kind of feel like if you're calling it a lifetime repertoire and it's not just a marketing gimmick, probably it implies that your book is actually something that's robust and not going to change considerably over time. But a lot of the lines that Giri suggests, I feel like they're going to require some updates. Here. Oh yeah, this. The main deal with this line is that the e-pawn for white is weak. Skip the alternatives just to speed things up. Queen c7 prevents bishop c4, normal stuff. Skip that, skip that, skip that. Taking towards the center or something. I thought it would be bishop d6 here. Tactics time. They probably wish they could play queen d2, but they can't because the queen's on e7, and that's not how queens move. Okay. I do a little bit of chessable every day, even though it's kind of like not as useful for me as it was when I first started like 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago. You guys might be pleased to know that at some point I might be putting out a book on chessable with one of the people in our Discord and in our server. I mean, and in our channel community. I don't like it when the book focuses too much on obvious stuff. I prefer it strongly when they focus on the other things. Oh right, we're playing e5 as a response to that stuff. This kind of feels like a waste of time. Someone who's studying this kind of material probably doesn't need it to be explained to, like, look out for bishop takes g5 stuff. But I could be wrong. First this one, and then this. to deflect the queen and play for an attack. So we gain a tempo with d takes e4, deflect the queen, and then go for this attack. Alright, and once I round out this section, we'll do some maybe middle game tactics. Something like that. Alright, this is just a transposition. Gary says that g4 is badly mistimed here because castling hasn't happened. That's probably fair. I seem to remember there's some game, it's like Spraggett versus Chaparinov or something, where like g4 and g5 comes in well, but they'd already castled long. Yeah, interesting how Gary says that usually this idea doesn't work too well. This is a thematic idea. Often the other knight's already on d7, so they'll throw in like knight e5, the queen moves, and then knight takes g4. So probably, I guess he means his worst version doesn't usually work too well. There's a big pin on the bishop here. So we're getting access to all the dark squares. Apparently bishop f6 gets a question mark here. That's interesting. This is strong with the pawn on h6, but not right away. Apparently with the pawn on h6, white has knight takes e6 as an in-between move. With bishop h5 check, I guess, in the middle. That makes sense. But in this case, with the pawn on h7, they can block with g6, so that's the difference. And this protects the rook. Probably with the knight, yeah. The knight will protect the king and the whole king side. That's nice. Oh shit. I forgot that strong in between move. If it was the obvious follow up, they wouldn't call them in between moves. Alright, so here I'm not directly taking on e5. Because after knight c7 I can't take it, so I go here first. Provoke that. Then take it. Alright, almost done with this chapter. And then we'll switch topics. Alright, so Geary is saying that black is generally happy to get rid of the dark square bishops in a position like this. That's good to know. So we get rid of that by force and bring the knight back. It's worth a couple moves, I suppose. And now e5 is not a big deal anymore. And we protect. And initiative's important, so we use it. Very typical thing. Protect. Make them commit their bishop, then open the queen side. They attack the queen, we move the queen. Had a broken keyboard, I bought a broken keyboard. Lots of attacky stuff is happening. That's good. I like that. We hit them, and then move, and then attack everybody with the knights. Looks good. Alright, there's probably an easy defense for this. It's probably knight h7. Yeah, this is typically how you stop this kind of stuff. Now that we're a piece up, we can just go defend that king. They can grab the pawn. I don't think I really care. Apparently rook f7 is also quite nice. It's always nice to give back some stuff. Alright, so white has 2 pawns and a rook for 2 pieces. But the light square bishop is bad. It's a big difference. I think I've recently misevaluated the relative weight of bad minor pieces of material, so this is a good thing to think about a little bit. We were doing knight h7 here. Getting rid of that bishop that we don't care for. Alright, almost done here. It's nice to be able to strike first. So here comes knight e4. Pretty huge position there. Oh, forgot that they were doing something. I think I was taking this, yeah. not forget to take when they threaten my pieces. Oops, wrong bishop. There we go. Alright, we're just developing stuff first. Alright, one more. And then we're done with this mini speed run of this chapter. Bishop takes f6 is like always premature. Alright. Solid progress. This is the bishop g5 e6 sidelines chapter. And I think we should switch and do tactics. So here's our next tactic. This one's probably not so hard. It's been played many times. I can take on d8, then take again, and then king h7 is forced. And I can take on c5 with what looks like a tremendous position. Probably I shouldn't allow pawn takes f3, but not sure. At any rate here, if I like move my queen, then they're just taking on d1, then taking on f3. Well, maybe not taking on f3, but like saving the rook, for example. Like maybe queen e1, rook d1, queen d1, rook c8, and I have to save my knight, and there's no good score for the knight. So I think already by elimination I can play queen d8, getting 2 pieces for the queen, then maybe a third one. Is it worth considering? No, rook e4, they just play rook d2. Rook c4, rook d1 check, and then that's it. So I think it has to be queen d8. I don't see why I wouldn't take a bishop with check. I can take the rook, set that pass pawn in motion, although I don't know how far it's really going to go. It's a little tenuous. Hello, Gaius. Good evening. Hope all's well for you. Hey, Gaius, would you ever be interested in playing a match on stream against someone else who watches the channel? I don't think you're in my Discord, so you probably haven't noticed it. Let me see if I can. Let me send you a link for my fan page, which is not self-interested. I want to send it to you because we have the details of a fan fight invitational on this page. I don't know if you're part of it already. If you are, oh, on another alias, gotcha. Cool. But yeah, if you wanna challenge somebody, maybe you should pop into the Discord. I don't know if you have Discord. Otherwise, maybe just leave a comment on the recent thread, and I can try to set you up with somebody. If you want, you could also DM me your handle, so I can try to find someone who's around your rating. I think it would be cool. We have a fan fight invitational that's been brewing. We have a bunch of people who qualified, but we want 16 so we can make it an eliminator format. So you're more than welcome to join in. Okay, let me see. I think I can just take this rook. I'm gonna do it. No. Sag. Save my knight. Oh, I could hit the queen and then take the rook. That was stupid. That's what I get. Anyway, here I have rook b8, followed by rook takes b2. That looks pretty good. I also have queen e4. I should probably throw in rook b8 and then queen e4. Working with very limited material here, being down a rook. But there's also queen e4 and rook e8. I don't know if I really need to put it on b2. So let's say queen e4. If king f1, then rook e8 looks clearly nice. Like well, maybe not. There's knight d2. And then queen d3 wins the knight. So knight a3. And then there's check on e2, king g1, queen e1 mate. Alright, so king f1 is out. Queen e4, they'll probably play king d1. And then I don't think I have a real threat. So probably it's rook b8 first. It's this first. Queen d3 in the middle. I could let them take my rook and then they don't have any more checks if bishop g5 is mate. That makes sense. Okay. So this one was kind of silly. I saw it as like I have two options. I didn't see anything after king d1, so I played the other move. So I had to look a little bit harder here for queen d3. Queen h6 maybe. They might have to play rook d7, so maybe it's rook g7, something faster. Rook g7, king g7, queen g5, king h8, and then queen e5, king g8, queen g5, king h8. Maybe like rook takes e6. The queen on g5 guards c1, so there's no back rank mate. I could also maybe win the queen, like takes, check, here, check, here, queen e6. And then if they put king h8, there's knight f7, and I win the queen. So they have to play king g7. But then there's knight f5, which wins. So that just wins. Alright. Cool. I'm liking the pace so far, even though I got the first two wrong. Trying to keep a good pace here. Knight b4, pawn takes a3 looks pretty nice. But why would I do that when I can play rook b2, king b2, rook b8? That's not b8, rook b8. If king c1, then queen a3 wins on the spot. Probably they should play king a2 to avoid worse pain. But then I have knight moves. Maybe knight b4. There's pawn takes b4. Well, there should be something there. Alright, this way of thinking is not serving me. It's just superficial. I don't know, I was trying a different way of looking at these positions, and so far I'm not happy with it. Maybe I just have to get better at it. Knight b4 was my first thought, but that's not good. Rook b3 is also an idea, but I don't think it's right. I'm a little disappointed too, because this was a puzzle that was high rated enough that I didn't lose any points. So it would have been good to give it a good effort. I think they must have changed the rating equation for tactics, because I used to lose plenty of rating for a puzzle 200 above me. It'd be cool if it was something like c5, but c5 seems terribly slow. Like, what am I really even threatening? I don't think it's anything. It could be knight c5 with the idea of knight b3, but even that, it's like, I'm not sure. Let's see. Nope. After knight c5, pawn takes bishop b2, king a2, queen takes c5. I think they... Actually, hold on. How do they defend that? So knight c5 takes bishop b2, king e2, queen takes, maybe just queen d3. But then after, like, bishop all the way back to g7 or something, rook b2 is coming up. They could defend that with rook b1. That could be, maybe that's the problem. Kareem, welcome. I think c5 is a little bit too optimistic. Like, they don't have to take it. That's why I was thinking knight c5, because at least I'm threatening knight b3. Chai said that he just won with barely any time with king and pawn versus rook and pawn. Was it an interesting position, or were you just flagging them because you had only like 2 pieces to move and they had to do more interesting things? Sometimes pawn does beat rook, though. Okay, I don't know what's going on in this puzzle. Maybe just try to double the rook somehow. It seems really slow. This is difficult. I guess that's why it's like a 2800 puzzle. Bring this knight here. I don't think it's something forced like that, because I don't have this bishop looking at the king. I want this to be open. That would be really nice. Maybe I even put this one. with the idea of just taking and putting pressure on b2. That's nuts if it's true. Okay. Looks like there's some activity in the fan club page. That's good. Yeah, so it took me a long time to find this move. It's threatening knight takes f3 and taking the bishop, but I was kind of not thinking at all about that because I wanted to go get the king. Even this position looks like it might be defensible. For instance, let's say I just play knight c3. Or... no, yeah, knight c3. The reason I'm thinking knight c3 or maybe knight d4 is that if I play something like this, then there's instant checkmate. So... just add water. So maybe here the problem is that c5 is happening. Let's see what the engine says. It says rook b2 and rook b8, and then my idea from before is working somehow. King a2 is necessary. And we're playing knight knight c3 maybe. Excuse me. Yeah, like let's say they play something stupid like f6. Knight c3. Yeah, just queen a3 is coming up. So they have to sack the queen already. Okay, so this is just a hard one. A little difficult. I can take and attack their king. This looks like a king hunt. It reminds me of the hunt. Another funny thing is I could play queen f8, pawn takes e5 check, king e7, and then look for something here. But I'm down a minor piece. I mean, I have pawns, but like down a minor piece. So I'm not sold on that concept. Besides, the rook is guarding f8, so I'm probably not getting anywhere. But, you know, I could take... they have to play king c6, probably. And the hunt goes on. So I'd really like it if I could make it so that they cannot play king c6 and king b7. That's what's important in this situation. This is what they want to do. It'd be cool if I could play queen takes e5, because after knight takes, pawn takes, they can't play king c6, but they have king e7 and king d7. They don't. It doesn't seem promising. Oh, Kareem saw me play live against, I guess it was Andrea. Yeah, that's true. Were you there in person, or did you see it online? That was definitely not my best game, I have to say. But it was still a good game. Well, I hope you enjoyed the game, and I guess it was Levy's commentary. Alright, now I'm looking for some way to open the position. Perhaps I could play something like e4, so that if they move the bishop to rescue it, like bishop b7, it blocks the king's escape path. For example, maybe e4, bishop b7, f takes e5, king c6, d5 check, pawn takes, pawn takes. Even that doesn't look so great, but maybe something in this direction. E4 definitely does look promising. I don't know if I can play it just like that, though. Because, like, we're down a piece, so they might even be able to give it back in some good way. The thing is, I want to see them play, like, knight takes e3, because then I can finally give my checkmate. Knight takes e3, pawn takes, it doesn't even matter, you know, pawn takes e5, and then they can't play king c6. So I don't care about any of their knight moves. But what if I play, like, e4, king c6, pawn takes d5, and then they just, you know, maybe take back with a queen, or even just play king to b7. They probably are escaping, so e4 might not be fast enough unless I have a good response for e4 king c6. I guess their king is still in danger after e4 and pawn takes d5. I could even add an in-between move, like maybe e4, king c6, d takes e5, or queen takes e5, because the knight's pinned. The issue with playing that way is after king b7, I can't take the bishop because my queen's hanging now. So probably d takes e5 would be a good in-between move. I don't know if I have any options here. I have a feeling there's something I'm just not looking at. Maybe I could take, force them to play king c6, and then play a good move. Like maybe d takes, king c6, and then something. That doesn't seem independent from the move e4. But it's more forcing, so that could be good. I'm sort of averse to f takes e5 because after king c6, for example, if I play rook takes f8, queen takes f8, it looks like pieces are coming off the board, but maybe I should look at that more closely. F takes, king c8, rook f8, queen f8. Queen takes, rook takes, and then e4 would win the piece back. Winning a piece back and retaining an extra pawn. I think I'm retaining an extra pawn. Yeah, right now I have 7 against 6. I'm capturing a free pawn on e5. In order to win the bishop back, I have to give them a pawn. So I'm keeping an extra pawn if I play, like, just trade everything and then play e4. Onaterzi, thank you for your follow on Twitch. Alright, I think I've looked at this one long enough, and I'm going to settle for the one that keeps an extra pawn. Alright, this was my initial guess, but I didn't see... I was confused by this one, because I see that I'm winning the piece back in several ways. Why is this the best way? Let's see. So here, I take the extra pawn, trap the bishop. I don't think it's worth looking at the complications that arise here. I mostly want to compare with this. this is somehow equal. Like, I take this with check. What's the big deal? I guess I'm losing the d-pawn back. That's frustrating. Small detail. Alright. If I played this quickly, I definitely would have gotten it right. I don't know how to balance this out. Yeah, I also have e4. And this one, I kind of just suspected that there was some in-between move for black that would be better. And Engine is saying it's only e takes f4. Which looks outlandish to me. But after queen f6, I guess the takeaway here is that with the king in the middle of the board, I shouldn't be allowing a queen trade in any situation. It's just selling it short. Okay, I can deal with that. That makes sense to me. So what do they just take? Probably a knight, yeah. I could take that in 3 different ways. Queen takes, I don't think so. Rook takes, the problem is with knight takes, if I play queen takes, they have rook d1 and I lose. So I'd have to take with the pawn. And then after rook d1 check, king g2, I'm probably in danger here. Just seems like the wrong direction to go in. So, but if I take with the pawn, then they play queen takes e5. If I play rook h5, they play rook f1. In fact, if I play rook takes f3, why can't they just play queen takes e5? What's going on here? Queen e1 could be a thing, but I really don't think so. If their pawn was on h7, maybe. But even then, that's a huge maybe, because rook f1 is with check. Okay, I think I have to take on f3 somehow. If I take with the pawn, they take the rook on e5. That doesn't seem good. If I take with a rook, they could still do that. I don't know, I just don't want to be a piece down here. I'm not sure what's going on. I guess I have to play queen takes f3. If knight takes, then rook takes h5. And if queen takes e5, I should probably have something here. I don't know, I don't believe in it. It's not very appealing. Oh, there's something obvious here. I have queen c4 and then rook takes h5. They have to play queen f7 to deal. But then I can play rook takes f3. And any capture they make, I can make space for my king, so I don't care about back rank stuff. I think it has to be queen c4. And rook takes f3, right? I could take this or this. If I take on f7, they play rook takes, and then I am rook takes, pawn takes, a piece down. So I should play rook takes f7, queen takes c4, pawn takes c4, knight takes f3, pawn takes f3. And then I have a rook endgame, which honestly doesn't look that great either. So maybe there's something hiding, something good. This pawn takes f3 and I'm in exchange up. I don't know why I'm looking so much at these super forcing things. Oh, guys, you were playing in the park? Which park? Where were you? I used to be a bit of a park player myself. And a tournament in a park sounds pretty great. Alright, still trying to keep some reasonable pace here with these puzzles. Knight c6 hits every piece. Looks quite reasonable. We're not even a piece down, so what is the problem with this move? It looks very normal. I guess they play queen e6 to hit this rook. I could take with check to avoid losing my rook on d2 at least. And then if I play knight e5, I'm selling short because I'm only winning back a pawn when I'm already down a pawn. Mostek Park in Ljubljana. Okay. The last park I was at that had chess was in Lucerne. I haven't made it out to Slovenia. I think SLO is Slovenia, right? Acronyms and abbreviations are not my strong suit. But I'm hoping actually to get out there. I want to play outside of the US more often because I think playing conditions are just much better outside, and that's good for me. Besides, I'm more interested in going places, you know, not just going around to the same US cities and staying in a hotel the entire time because of double rounds. So going to like some of the former Soviet bloc countries for chess sounds pretty great. The next thing on the docket for me is Reykjavik. I'm hoping to get some people to support me on Patreon or send donations so that I can make that happen. And after that, if that goes well, I hope to try to move on and play a circuit in Spain, maybe next year. But that depends a lot on being able to raise the funds. So knight c6 seems pretty obvious, but I just don't know how to answer queen e6. That's the issue at the moment. If knight d8, then queen e6. This is my problem. And it looks to me like we just exchanged pieces in a very fancy way. I guess I could play queen e5 at the end. Hitting the rook and this pawn. But then there is queen c1 check, winning the rook. Doesn't seem that promising that way. Great licorice in Iceland. All right, that's a good tip. I like licorice. Jankovic uploads on YouTube or what? I don't think I've ever seen Jankovic. I mean, like I've seen his name, but I haven't seen any commentary. I'm sure they still put on chess tournaments in Zagreb. There have been a lot of famous ones there. I think it would be cool to visit one day. I just hit Switzerland, and that was a pretty big milestone. I know that the Biel tournament has been famous for a long time. Although it seems like they're having financial troubles, and they might not be able to continue. Hopefully I didn't attend the last ever Biel tournament. All right, what other ideas do I have here? There's like knight c6 seems to be not working. Knight f5. Looks like it has a similar problem, but you know, even more so. Queen e6, and now my knight is hanging and my rook. But at the same time, I don't see anything more promising than this. So this is our starting point. Maybe I'm wrong to assume that I should take on d8. I've been wrong before. I could take off both rooks. That might help. I was thinking only knight d8. Maybe I should play rook takes, knight takes, queen c4, and then something outstanding, like maybe queen e5. I'm only winning my pawn back, but maybe there's some initiative. I don't really see it, really. There's also this fork. Like I could just play like rook c2. Like just don't lose the rook and see what they have to say about that. For instance, rook c2, maybe rook d c8. Knight takes b8. They can't play rook c4 because of rook d8. No, my rook's on c2. So they could play rook c4. So if I play rook c2, there's this rook to c8 problem now. But maybe I could take on... I don't know, this is the right direction. If I take the rook on b8, they are going to take on d2. This is the problem that I have. And there's no rook c8 check, because first of all, this queen takes c8, and then also knight e8. So I don't really believe in this. Yeah, I don't think that's working. And if I take this one, then there's queen takes c4. And I also don't see anything really promising about this. For instance, the knight is nearly trapped. I think the knight can come out on b7, but even then it doesn't look like it has a bright future. So I'm more inclined to play something like rook c2. I'm just trying to figure out if they played this rook to c8, am I good? If they play this rook, I'm actually just taking this with tempo on the queen, so I don't mind. But if they play this one, I'm more interested. Dark Psycho on YouTube, welcome. I don't know what the like numerical accuracy means, but I could check out his channel. That sounds pretty good. And might be good to support someone who has a relatively small channel. Like his is probably like, you said 3K subs. That's probably like twice as much as I have. So still pretty small. All right, so against rook c8, what am I even doing? If I play like knight d4, they can just take it, because after rook c8, rook c8, rook c8, queen c8, they end up on top. If I play knight d8, they can just take it. So I don't think these knight moves are really cutting it. I could play knight b8, but then after rook c4, I think I have a very similar problem to before. Where I play rook c4, they play queen c4, and I'm just recovering my pawn under dubious circumstances. So maybe it's not rook c2 either. Oops. Okay. So maybe it's not rook c2. I wish I could deflect like both of these rooks and the queen somehow. Because if I could like clear them all out, that would be quite useful. There might be some rook d8 at the end of the line, something like that. Maybe I have to add an in-between move. Trademark. Maybe I could play like queen e5 here. No, even then they have rook takes d2. Actually, rook d2, then there's queen b8. And then I guess knight e8 is forced. That could be a non-zero solution. The reason not queen c1, Gaius, I was thinking that they would just play rook takes d2. And if I play queen takes d2, they play queen takes c4, and lots of things are getting traded. I can play knight b8 at the end, but it's... Wait, hold on. Queen d2, queen c1, rook d2, queen d2, queen c4, knight b8 is threatening queen d8 checkmate, but they have a move to defend. Like they could play queen c8 in that position. I don't think it's promising still. So that's why not queen c1 in my opinion. Unless I'm missing something in that analysis. Rook d2 looks like the refutation. Rook d2 I could play knight takes b8, but then they can play rook back to d8. That doesn't seem especially troublesome for them. I do want something like that though. Maybe it should be like rook d8, knight d8, queen somewhere, like maybe d7 to try to dominate that knight. And then maybe in this position, something like queen c1. Obviously, they can't take the knight on d8, but I'm also not threatening anything immediately. So maybe they'll play like maybe maybe h6, maybe something like h6. And we could play a move like rook c8 in that situation, threatening to move the knight, but after king h7, it's not happening. Even if I could check the king on the b1 to h7 diagonal, they could play g6, and that shouldn't be a problem for them. It's quite difficult. I think it might be something like rook c2. And just in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and play it. Rook c2. Just a quick double check before I do. Rook c2. This is my problem, that they can play this move. Maybe I could just play knight e7 and they have to take with the queen, then I take on c8. Yeah, that's the answer. Yeah, this is winning. Okay, cool. Last second I got it right. That was good. So still pushing up against the tendency to just sit there and think about things too much. I don't want to overthink. So they just took on g5, which looks like a dubious decision. Is this one of those checkmate type things, or something else? It looks like that though. They can come out like this if they take with the bishop. So probably not exactly knight f6 immediately. Knight f6, the problem seems to be bishop f6. Could be queen h7, king h7, knight f6, king g6, and then something here, maybe. No, I really don't think so. Knight g7 also makes sense. Like knight g7, king g7, queen h7, king f8, queen h8 is mate. So knight g7, king g7, queen h7, king f6, rook h6, king f5 is illegal, so that's mate. So is knight g7 good enough? I can at least take it for free. It is threatening queen h7, mate. So how would they even defend this position? Like rook c3 is nothing. I'm just playing queen h7. I don't know. This is pretty convincing. I am not even down a piece. All right, maybe I'll just go slowly here. I can give a check, king f8, queen h8, king e7, and they're escaping. The Master John, welcome. Thank you. Just chilling, continuing my daily tactics practice with you guys. I do other stuff off stream because I don't think everything makes good content. Not everything that's good for improving is good to watch. So I've been trying to share this with you guys. I think it's just queen h7, plain and simple. But I also see moves like knight e6 and knight f5 on the menu. So trying to be thorough here. Like maybe I should take and play queen h7 now. But I'm also not sure why. Like, so let's just go down the most obvious path. I guess there's no clear win here. If I allow bishop g7, then the win is probably gone if it exists. I don't think I should do any in-between moves and then play queen h7, because after king f8, I don't even have another check. Like, if I'm going to play queen h8, it needs to be now. Alright, so this should be the next move. It doesn't really matter. Like, that has to be the next move. It could be knight h5. That could be good. And one of the ideas I have with knight h5 is that if they first of all, if they let me take it, that's pretty great. And if they play something like queen e7, let's say queen d8, just because that looks a little bit better. I can play queen h6 and then take it for free on the next move. It doesn't matter if they put the king on e7; it blocks the queen. So that seems pretty good. And they can't play bishop h8 or bishop g7. I just go ahead and take those things. And if they play king e7 here, maybe I can start entertaining such things like knight f6, king f6, rook h6 maybe, or maybe pawn g5. or maybe just queen h6 straight up anyway, because the bishop continues to lack squares. I think they have to put it on h8. And then I have... what do I have? Okay, I guess king e7 is a serious move. In this position, knight e4, Master John. This allows rook c2 check at the very least, so I'm a little bit suspicious. Okay, well, let's say they just play the obvious d takes e4. What's the big deal with that? I'm not sure what extra option that really gives us. So I guess I'm focusing on this, because I don't see an alternative besides king e7. I still don't think knight e4 is happening, even if I can bring the king to f6, because like I only have one attacker on c4, so it's not like I'm winning the rook on c4. Alright, so Karim is suggesting knight e4, rook takes, but the rook can't take on e4, right? How am I doing that? And I don't think they'll play rook takes c1. I think they'll take the knight. And now if rook takes c4, then... Actually, hold on. Maybe you guys are onto something. So maybe in the first position, knight e4. Takes. With the idea that if rook takes, check, and queen e8. Okay, this is actually the right kind of idea to look for here. I have to agree. It's a good spot. Back rank memes. So we do this. They have to take it, I think. I was worried about rook c2, but in light of the back rank mate ideas, maybe that doesn't matter. Let me just quickly check it because it's forcing. Alright, so they play rook c2. We have to take it. They go here. King f3, I guess. No, not king f3 because of pawn e4. So maybe knight d2, because we're not threatening this back rank with a rook, so we can just defend our king. They don't have rook d2 and then more checks, so probably they have to take at this point. And then queen h8 looks pretty right. Yeah, I'm fairly convinced. Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Oh, it's wrong. But I didn't lose any points, so... Oh no, I lost points. It was just server lag. Maybe it's knight d5 first. No. So I was thinking this one. Ugh, the move that I was thinking about. And here, knight e4 maybe? No, this is winning for black. It says knight takes f6 and pawn takes g5 are both winning. Alright, so what's the deal with knight e4? Let's check this out, because I was pretty convinced when I looked at it. You take this. Okay, so I should have thought about this, because if they don't cooperate, they still have material on their side. That's the problem. Okay. That was silly. Got a little distracted by that idea. No, that's fine. That was a good guess. I mean, I was pretty convinced. I thought they would take it and then we would have the back rank ideas, but they have bishop g7. That's a strong move. So for this one, we would like to play bishop h6, but the knight on h5 prevents the mate. So maybe I just play rook g5 and then take it, but then they can replace that with another knight. They're also not without counterplay. It's disappointing not to get that last one right. So we're only down a pawn here. How crazy would it be to just like start attacking the knight on h5? I think the idea here for black will be to try to trade queens. Like maybe they want to play queen e7 right away. I don't know how I would answer that. Alright, maybe I should be looking at something forcing. Like we go here and, you know, they just go right ahead and put the knight there. We could gain a tempo maybe by playing bishop g5. That way if they play queen e7 we just take on f6 and we're a piece up. My quarrel with that would be that they can play either knight e8 or knight h5. The knight on g7 has to go somewhere. I'll make that a different color. Here or here. Now if we had this position with the bishop on g5 and it was our move, what would we do? Probably like bishop g4. That looks pretty devastating. But then they still have queen e7. It's not solid in my mind that I'm actually winning if I can, for example, play like bishop g4, queen e7, bishop takes, queen takes, bishop h6, king to like f7. Not king f7, king e7. So that if I take back my queen, they take here. And the idea that I had with this is that I could maybe get rook g7 in. But I still just don't see why that's so good. Like maybe I can get rook a7 and try to take these pawns. But it's not without counterplay. Like they're winning the pawn on e6. And I'm still a pawn down. So it at least looks like an interesting direction to go in, but it's also super like not forced that I have to get the same exact position with an extra move, because they could also play knight e8. You know, I'm playing check and then back, so let's just call that bishop g5. It's the same position as if we played bishop g5 and they play this knight all the way to e8. So let's just pretend. I could try to put pressure like slowly, rook g3, queen e7, rook f3, queen takes, pawn takes, maybe bishop takes just to be fancy. But after like king g7, I'm not winning this knight on f6, so that's not conclusive. I don't know if this idea to like slingshot back to g5 is really amounting to anything except a perpetual, and I don't want that. This has only been played 18 times. That's super rare. Guys, I wasn't actually calculating bishop g5. I was just trying to make the arrows clean. It was like check here and then back, with the idea that the knight will be on e8 or h5. But I guess either way, it's not coming together. Maybe I should be going after like the c8 square, something like that. But even that seems slow. maybe like king g2. First of all, there's knight f4, but like if they go here, I bring this rook. They trade. They keep trading. I take with the bishop. After king g7, I think their position is solid enough. Or maybe I could throw in... Alright, so they go here. I could throw this check real quick. And block with the knight, maybe. Hold on, let me just clarify this for myself. They take this. So let's just say the queens are gone. They take this and this. I could have the same position with the knight on g7. So let's just pretend it's like that already, because I think that's the best I can do. So they took, I just took back, it's their turn. I still don't think this is winning. Like king e7 is available. Oh, but then the knight hangs. Maybe this is winning actually. It's very difficult if true. Yeah, I kind of agree with Gaius that like if we could just throw this check on h6 and then play like rook g3 or something, it kind of has to come out in a good way. But with these puzzles, there's usually just like one thing. Only one thing that makes sense. Like against a person, probably they would blunder on the next move anyway. If you play, you know, like this, bishop h6, rook g3, hard position. But not in this case. Sometimes you'll encounter this in real life if you're like playing in parks or local chess clubs. I've often found that there's usually at least one person at a reasonably sized chess club who doesn't ever want to use the clock, doesn't want to follow a touch move, just wants to like move things around and like calculate on the board while you're kind of just sitting there waiting for them, like basically waiting for your fate. And they're just like analyzing everything and it's taking hours. There's usually just someone like that at a chess club. So even in real life, you could encounter someone who's going to try to work this out at the board with you with no time, moving the pieces, sort of like an actual computer. I'll usually just troll those people mercilessly because at some point it becomes ridiculous. Anyway, kicking the knight to a worse square and making it go into a pin can't be that bad. I would like to get that situation when the knight can't go to g7, but like if I play rook g5 or something, they could just go ahead and play knight g7 on the next move. So I think I can probably rule out the possibility of a forced win involving bishop h6. So that being said, I see nothing wrong with throwing this check. Now if I could deflect the queen or something, that would be really cool. But they are threatening queen e7 right now. If I play bishop g7 after queen e7, they can take with the queen. Oh, but then I play queen d6. Maybe that's actually bad for them. Now I'm starting to entertain the same idea of king g2 because it seems they're not untangling that quickly. I just want to play rook c1 and rook c8. I don't think I have a faster way, like rook g3, rook c3, like they'll take it and then the c file is closed. But maybe I could pressure them with rook g3 and rook f3. I already calculated that, but I kind of missed the detail that I could play bishop g7. So let's say I throw this in. They play queen e7. I take, and take on d6. That looks very good. They could maybe play queen to e7. Maybe I'll play queen takes a6. If they play knight d5, I could play maybe knight, rook f3, but then they have knight f4. So maybe it's letting things out of control. Why do they have to play rook c7, guys? I think after rook g3, they could play queen e7. What's the issue here? maybe I'm playing rook f3 right away. They can take this. I take back. This is hanging, so they have to defend it, but they don't have... Okay, actually that makes sense. So I should play this. It was funny, I calculated this line earlier, but I think I just calculated it wrong because I forgot that bishop takes g7 was worth considering. I was looking more for like checkmate ideas. Yeah, this is pretty simple. So f3. It'd be nice to play queen e1, but I can't. I like how they've almost checkmated in like multiple ways, but not yet. Not yet. Yeah, the rook on h8 is terrible there. I have to agree. That makes a lot of sense. Here, I'm inclined to play something like queen e2. It's just, it looks like a double attack. So the problem is probably how we defend. Like maybe they'll move their rook to f1, I guess. And if I take this bishop, they have rook h3. And queen h7 looks pretty bad. You know, if they get this in, I don't have king e7. It's a sad situation. So I might have to not take on a2, but take on e5, something like that. With the idea of, you know, let's say queen e2, rook f1, queen takes e5. Or maybe just queen e5, just to illustrate the idea. Rook h3, bishop f6, queen h7, king f8. They can't play queen h8, and I have room to run, to roam, to thrive, be free, and that seems pretty good. If they hit my queen, I could always do the old switcheroo, play like queen c5 check, and then take on g5 and start running. I have good pawns. I think that's something to live for in this position. So, is it as simple as queen takes e5? Or is it queen e2? I think queen e2 and queen takes a2 is lost. So, I'm not too interested in that. I just wonder if this in-between move helps, because it's quite similar. Like, should the rook be on d1 or should it be on f1? Maybe if I play queen e2, they'll even play like... No, I was thinking maybe rook d3 to try to open up the light squares, but then there's queen e1 checkmate. It might be good to maintain that resource. I think queen e5. Alright, and bishop f6. I'm fairly confident that's the only move. I should probably not lose my queen. Yeah, okay, easy. This is only exacerbating the difference between my defending performance rating and all of my other tactics performance ratings. Maybe I could show it quickly. On the puzzle dashboard, they rate you in various categories, and apparently with that last puzzle, my defensive move rating has crested 2700 performance, and all of my other ones look like crap as a result. I'm not even training this one. Like, just stop sending me defensive puzzles. I want to do the other ones. All right, anyway, here we are. Obviously, we have some pressure, but they also have some pressure. Is it another defending puzzle? Could it be? The only moves that are not permitting mate, that are not defending c2, are moves like rook g8 check and queen e7 check. Rook g8, knight g8. I'm not sold on that being a position where white's playing for a win. Because after they consolidate this e7 pawn. They can bring the knight back to activity, and they probably have a very reasonable position. Like, we have 4 pawns. They have 5 pawns, not including the b pawn that's going to die. So this could be another one of those pesky, no good defending puzzles. So it's like, do I trade this and get a position that I think is simple for black to defend? Or do I play bishop d3? Or maybe even c4? Probably bishop d3. Let's just say bishop d3. Allowing them to take this rook. At which point I have bishop f6. They would probably put the rook somewhere good. Maybe this one. Hitting c2. And then after bishop e7, I expect that their king is in grave danger. King d7 looks like a reasonable defending move. Is it worth it? This looks interesting at least, but I'm not sure it wins. Rook takes g8 looks boring. It could also be that I have to play rook h2. This is a move that defends c2, doesn't lose my rook, and threatens bishop takes f6. All great things. So I think the downside maybe of rook h2 is that it allows them to rescue their knight with knight d5. Continuing this pattern of there being annoying things that they can do. And just as a quick sanity check, you know, if I play something obvious like this, then there's queen c2 checkmate. So that's definitely a real problem. I don't see why c4 would be better than bishop d3. So I'm still pretty set on that being, these are my 2 defending options. And as aggressive options go, I think only rook g8. Because if I play queen e7, rook e7, king e7, rook g8, and then, you know, like just the well runs dry, there's nothing to play. Alright, I think I'm set on bishop d3. No, I'm sorry. I'm not set. I want to eliminate rook takes g8. So let's say we take this. I think we still have to resolve the problem of queen c2. And we don't have any new options, but black has new options. So I don't prefer it. So now I need to compare rook h2 and bishop f6. I'm sorry, bishop d3. These are the 2 options to compare. Bishop d3 entails an exchange sacrifice, but I'm getting at least a pawn as compensation. But I'm already down a lot of pawns. If I play rook h2, the problem is that they can play knight d5. So let's see if that's a real problem. I think allowing knight c3 would be devastating. This might actually be grounds for playing the move c4. No, actually, because after c4, knight d5, pawn takes d5, queen c2, I lose the game. So c4 doesn't actually stop knight d5. Alright, on this basis, I think I need to eliminate this knight. Bishop d3. Wait, hold on. Yeah, bishop d3, knight d5, I have rook takes g8. That's an important difference. Let me just quickly check that. Rook takes, king here, and then I think rook c8 is an important in-between move. They have knight c3, but I have king b2. And there's no more checks. Queen b6 is covered. They could play like knight a4, but I have king to a1, and their queen's hanging, so they don't have any fun stuff. Okay, that seems very reasonable. e5, a bolt from the blue. That's a sign that black has resigned to their fate of not attacking me anymore. I can take on f6. Fairly confident. It's just a free knight, isn't it? What's the problem here? If they play e4, I can just take it. I really don't care. And there's no other problems. I guess they might want to play bishop d5 and queen a5, but I should be able to figure that out in time. Alright, now do I want to take this rook? Yeah, I think I want the rook. Okay, that was not bad. They took my stuff. That's not nice. Don't they know that you're not allowed to take stuff from coaches? Come on. So I could take this, which could allow knight c6. To which I could reply rook takes d8. I'm sorry, d1. And they could, hypothetically, take my queen. Threatening maybe rook c8 stuff, but probably not. Rook takes, bishop takes. And what just happened here? I think I just traded a bunch of stuff. I took a knight, I lost a knight. I took a queen, I lost my queen. I took a rook, I lost my rook. I had a broken keyboard, I bought a broken keyboard. So queen takes e5 doesn't look that effective if I follow this course. So queen takes, knight takes, maybe I want this bishop. They take the rook. I take the rook. They take with the queen, I take that, they take this, and at the end nah, that's not working. They're just winning an exchange more or less. So I get 2 pieces for a rook. Like this. I take. They take that. And I take this, they take here, and I take on e2. And the back rank is guarded by the bishop. I could also probably block in different ways. It's important that it's guarded. So, takes. I guess I see a free knight. And a free bishop. Oh man, that was the wrong part. So I take this. And this. Okay, so this is the part that's wrong too. Take that. No. Maybe I go here. Alright, so what's the difference? So this also looks like it's winning a minor piece. So let's say I go here. I don't think it's this. Oh, it might be this. Because they can take here. And white's better. Okay, so this is what I missed. This knight e7 check is actually a good move. I saw it, but I didn't think it was important. And here I missed this double attack. So probably I should have focused more on this line because white has fewer options along the way. They don't have any really interesting things. But here, they have 97, which I saw but didn't analyze deeply just because I underestimated it. But that option doesn't even exist in the other line. So that would have been more pragmatic, I suppose. I'll probably stop and take a break after this one just because I'm hungry. And that's important. But for now, we solve this. So it'd be cool to give a checkmate. Maybe I should just give them this and then play, I don't know, Queen E4 or something. Like, go ahead, defend that thing. I suppose they can because the bishop guards that. So maybe it's more like knight d6. Don't let them change the structure. You know, they have to take with the bishop, I think. And then I have Queen E4. Threatening mate. They have knight h6 still, actually. So that's important. Okay, so maybe it's not clear. How to get a checkmate because they always can block on h6. Doesn't really matter what I do. I could play knight g5. There's back rank memes. But I have a defense. I think that after rook d8, I can play queen takes f7, queen takes f7, rook h8, king h8, knight f7, king g8, and knight takes d8. At which point, 3, 6, 3. I'm up a pawn and not losing. So that seems pretty good. No, I'm going to go for it. Okay. So my defending score only increases. Let's see. Yeah, it's pushing a little bit further outside of the circle of rating things. Okay, so I think I will take a break for now because I need to eat something and I promised somebody I would meet them at the gym. So we'll do that. Yeah, thanks for watching, you guys. I wonder if I have any announcements. So we have one scheduled fan face-off coming up. That is, I'm gonna switch to webcam while I take a look at that, so you don't have to see my dashboard. That will be next Saturday, and it is Shy, also known as Swag Time, versus Rar Onion, also known as Ben. And I think that'll be really great. So you guys can see that it's scheduled on YouTube. And I think that's one of the more fun and interesting things that I do on my channel because it involves bringing people from the community out to play against each other with commentary, smack talk, things like that. So I hope you guys can make it for that next Saturday. And in the meanwhile, if you guys really like this, I'd appreciate your support. I have started a Patreon to try to help me raise some funds so that I can go to Reykjavik in January for a tournament. So I can keep getting better and get new games to make new content for you guys. And so if you guys like that, you can see the Patreon. That's on my YouTube channel homepage. And yeah, I really encourage you guys to join in. I have a Discord if you're not already in the Discord. Just leave a comment on any YouTube video to join in here. And you know, let's make this a group thing. Anyway, thank you guys for coming out. You can always message me later on if you have questions or comments. And take care. It's been great. Good luck with your chess.